Hey guys, so today I thought I'd bring a short, fun little video where I go over the top staple cards played in ranked matches online on Dueling Book using data available from ygeoscope.com. Keep in mind that this is for the current format since the September 2020 ban list came into effect. Now before I begin, just a quick reminder that my sponsor, Luxury Gaming, is holding the LCS 8 tournament this weekend, so look out for an analytical video of the most commonly played staples in LCS Top Cut that I'll be posting on their channel next week. Anyways, I'm going to provide the top 5 most played cards for 3 categories: hand traps, extra deck monsters, and then other staples. So you can try to guess the most commonly played card as we move along. As a disclaimer though, the frequency of these staple cards being played is heavily tied to the meta decks at the moment. So starting with the 5th most commonly played hand trap, we have Nibiru the Primal being main decked in most decks at this point because paired with another hand trap, it's definitely one of the most impactful hand traps out there. The win percentage value you see here is that among decks that played this card in ranked matches, that deck won X percentage of the time. So with Nibiru, 55% of the decks that played this card won their match. It was the 14th most played card overall in ranked matches on Dueling Book. Coming in at number 4, we have Effect Failure. Still seeing good amount of play even with the availability of Infinite Impermanence, since you can play it even if you control cards on the field, although you can only use it during your opponent's main phase. Perhaps this may surprise some of you for being this high. At number 3, we have Psyframe Gear Gamma. Not too surprising, we see this card being played in most deck lists in the top cut for the LCS for example. Sucks to dry the driver, but just so powerful, being able to negate monster effects and destroy the card. Has a pretty high win percentage for decks that play this card as well, at about 57%. At number 2, we have Infinite Impermanence. A literal hand trap that can be good going first and second, and it is very commonly played as it is the second most played card in general in ranked matches. This card has been reprinted a few times, but it's always been quite pricey, although now with the release of Maximum Gold, I'm sure it will be even more widely accessible. So now let's move on to number 1 and let's see if you guys can guess it by now what card it is. So finally, the most played hand trap in ranked matches on Dueling Book is Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Very versatile card, pretty much good against any deck, and isn't really format dependent like Droll and Lancia for example. It's actually the most played card in general in online play on Dueling Book, and by far too. Despite its number of reprints, including in the Soul Burner structure deck, it's never really been cheap, but it did just get yet another reprint in Maximum Gold, so hopefully that takes care of that. Alright guys, so now let's shift gears and cover the most played extra deck monsters in online ranked play on Dueling Book. Try to guess what number 1 is right now, but it probably won't be very surprising. So at number 5, we have Linkuriboh. This is probably mostly from Dino decks since they go into this with Archosaur and then go into Secure Garna, but a lot of Rogue decks play this as well, like for example decks that play Girsu, and its high win percentage is probably mostly driven by being played in Dino decks. Now at number 4, we have Predaplant Verde Anaconda. Of course, for the most part it's used to bring out Dragoon, and it only requires 2 effect monsters to make it, so practically any deck can make this thing. And there are decks that play this card not just for Dragoon. For example, Prank Kids will be playing this for Thunder Dragon Fusion, and I play Cyber Dragon, so we can use this to send Overload Fusion as well. So not really surprising to see it this high on the list. At number 3, and related to number 4, is Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Crazy boss monster with pretty much custom card-like effects, although it didn't have as big of an initial impact for us in the TCG as it did when it first released in OCG, for a variety of reasons, such as us already having access to Rise of the Duelist cards like Forbidden Droplets and Triple Tactic Talent to combat Dragoon for example. Now the top decks like Dragon Link and Dinos don't need to play Dragoon, but I guess it has a lot of online presence because I know Buster Blader Dragoon has been very popular lately as well. Pretty high win percentage of 61% in decks that play this card too. Then at number 2 we have Link Cross, pretty much a staple in any combo deck, and it was banned in the OCG a couple lists back, so perhaps we'll see the same with our list soon. Pretty disgusting card since it just creates 2 free bodies, and I know a lot of people are calling for its head for the next ban list. I don't think it's surprising to see this card this high on the list, so this card should probably give away what the most played extra deck monster is in online play. So at number 1, it is of course Crystron Halki Fibrax or Needle Fiber. Problematic card that we saw from a mile away, and basically every tuner is getting banned at this point if this card continues to exist in this format, at least in combination of some of the other cards we have available right now. Now Halki Fibrax is actually the third most commonly played card overall online for the current format, because so many decks can make this thing with a win percentage of about 59% in decks that played Halki Fibrax. Alright, so finally let's move on to the top 5 most commonly played other staples. So basically this list will be excluding hand traps and extra deck monsters, so think of generic draw cards, traps, and the like. Let's see if you can guess what the most commonly played card is. So coming in at number 5 is Solemn Judgment, a very classic and really old counter trap. It did come back to 3 a few lists back and definitely always sees play in back row heavy decks. Although the win percentage in decks that play this card is pretty low at 47% when compared to the other cards I showed in this video so far. But keep in mind, I don't think you should put too much weight with these win percentages because it is very dependent on the performance of the overall deck and the player. Then at number 4 we have Triple Tactics Talent, a card that shot up in price once Call by the Grave was limited in the most recent list. It's a card that's really a given and played in aggro decks like Dragon Link and Infernoble Knights, but also control decks like Dogmatica and Invoke, they play this card at times as well. Pretty versatile card, and although reliant on your opponent to activate a monster effect, I mean, considering how the game plays out nowadays, that's not too much to ask for. And then at number 3 we have Terraforming. Now this is probably mostly driven by Invoke variants using Terraforming to search for Magical Meltdown, although you also have Dinos that play it to search for Lost World or Mystic Mine, and same thing with Sky Strikers, they see a lot of play online as well, and they would be playing this card for, again, Mystic Mine or Area Zero. And at number 2 we have Pot of Desires. Obviously a lot of math floating around on whether you should play it, whether not to play it, and at what number you should be playing it, but you can't deny that it's a staple that sees a lot of play in a variety of decks and definitely a very powerful card. And finally, for number 1 we have Pot of Extravagance. Now some of you may argue that perhaps this shouldn't count in this list since not all decks can play it, but I sort of consider generic and non-archetype specific spell, trap, or monsters as staples that can be included for this video, so that's why I put Extravagance in. And this card of course is a staple in Dino, so probably where most of it is driven by, but you generally have a lot of back row decks that play this as well, like Altergeist or maybe Pure Eldritch. It recently got a couple of reprints, which is nice, although it is still pretty pricey, and right now it is the 9th most commonly played card overall. Alright guys, so that was it for the most commonly played cards in the current format since the September 2020 ban list. Hope you enjoyed the fun little video and hope you were able to guess correctly on most of them. Anyways guys, again, check out the Luxury Gaming Facebook and YouTube pages and watch out for the analytical video that I'll be creating and posting on their channel next week. Take care guys.